Welcome to Activation Nation podcast, where we talk all things business, mindset, momentum, and what it really takes to build the life that you love. I'm your host, Mindy Trumbull, and I am excited to be here today with you. And I am joined by the amazing Des Mamot. Des, welcome. And thanks it has been quite a journey. Des and I have been talking back and forth and trying to put this together for quite a while. We were just talking about how crazy life is this time of year and
Yes.
how many things you've had a lot of stuff going on. You
Yes.
had what, 2 graduations just barely?
Yes. I had one graduate college and one high school. So yeah, it was a busy month. So I appreciate you being flexible as well with
Oh,
getting
yeah.
this all set up too.
That's so well, congratulations. I mean, I know I had one this year that graduated from college and that's a big milestone and it is exciting. And then,
It is.
to throw in all the things that you're doing with your business and all of that, it makes for a busy but very proud and exciting time, I'm
Yes,
sure.
it does. No, it's been a great month, but I always say May is one of those busy ones that you're always kind of ready for it to be over with anyway. But it was a great month and, lots of exciting things going on within the company too. So that's even more exciting.
We were just chatting too about we just finished up what we are really planning on and hoping to be an annual every year thing, the executive reunion. And where we had a lot of our executive leaders come into town, come to the home office, and did just a full day of training and meetings and collaborating. And it was really exciting. Des had, as we've talked about, a couple of things happening in her life, so you weren't able to make it, but have been able to kind of get caught up and recapped on that. And
Yes.
so, really excited about that and excited that we're gonna try to make that a yearly event. It was really powerful.
I know I was so bummed. We were actually on a senior trip to Mexico during that when I heard about those dates, but I have not. I mean, everyone who has came back from that is so excited. And we're doing actually a recap tonight on it. So I can't wait to hear more about everything. But I heard it was just something you didn't want to miss, but unfortunately had to miss.
Yep, and that's what happens sometimes, right? Life just happens and
Yes.
you have it was an exciting life event, right? And that's what we always hope for. So that's
Yes.
great. I'm glad that you're doing a recap and if you're on Des's team or anyone else, ask about it. So
Yes.
make sure that you get all the info because there really was a lot of I think great things and ideas that came out of that. So cool.
Yes.
All right, well, let's jump in. We are going to really focus today on a topic that I think can sometimes be a little tricky, especially in this business of, where we're talking about leadership and growth on a team. And that's always, I feel like, a little bit of a hard thing of and this I want to dive into this a little bit, Des, of just how do you how do you know when, because we throw out that word a lot, leadership, how do you know when you have kind of transitioned into a leadership role? Like, in your opinion, what was there a moment or was there a time for you personally where you kind of went, "Oh, I I'm in this leadership position." And like, was there anything that stood out to you or was there a moment or anything like that?
Well, I think it's something that we're always continually growing, and I know, Sean Poe says it over and over again that you're never bigger than your business is never bigger than you are,
Mhm.
and I think it's that constant where I've had to have, that personal growth throughout this entire journey. I've been with LifeVantage for, well, like over 14 years, and
Yeah.
I think I had maybe a fear of leadership. I was never coming into it planning on being a leader, I guess. I was simply, I loved the science, I loved the products, I loved health. And so personally, I probably didn't even want to be a leader. I didn't know, initially when I came in, probably because of a fear of what that meant.
Mhm.
And so for me, it was kind of that gradual growth over time. But I
Yeah.
remember, listening to Sean and Michelle, who, directly are my mentors, my dearest friends. I absolutely adore them and owe them so much and gratitude. for them introducing this to me. But their leadership is one that is like no other, I believe. And for those who know them, that they exemplify what a leader means. And so for me, I guess as I started kind of building this business without the intention of really wanting to build a business,
Yeah.
it became one of those. I realized that I had to change my mindset and go from not sure what I was going to do with this to wanting to build a business and to impact not only my family, but others around me through this, and stop being fearful of maybe sharing the business side, or being fearful of what other people were thinking, or being fearful of getting in front of others. And so I think for me, it was that point when I had to go from sitting behind the scenes and letting other people kind of do the presentations to I had to do it myself. And when I started, we didn't have the technology, so there was no Zooming. So we didn't have the luxury of that. So it was, where I had to kind of get out of my comfort zone. And I think that's when I decided I had to change either my mindset or what I was doing, or nothing was going to grow with my business, nor was I going to bless other people with the health aspect or the business side of this.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you, really have I mean, you've got Shawn and Michelle Poe to
Yes.
kind of mentor you or to look towards. So you it sounds like you've had some really great leaders to look up to or to, look towards for questions or, that type of stuff. But what do you so as you unintentionally kind of grew into this leadership role that you're in, what do you feel like it has taken to not just get to that point? Because, like you said, it wasn't something that you necessarily intended when you got into this business, or, you loved the product, you love the science, and that's actually so common. We
Yep.
hear that so often, and then you just naturally talk about it and share it, and all of a sudden I'm building a business here, and realizing that. So as you kind of got to that point, what were some things that you feel like, have helped you the most being in that role? Or what are some things that you feel like it's really required of you? What does it take to be in that position? And I think I asked this,
Mm.
with the knowledge of it's something that is probably continuous,
Yep.
that you are continually doing. But what are some, like, really key things that you feel like are crucial?
I think for me, or I think for anyone at first, it's just, consistency with, listening to the team meetings that we had with the post every single week, like non-negotiables. I think putting things down in your calendar that are non-negotiables, even though this is you can make your own schedule business, it's
Yeah.
that consistency and treating it like a business that I had to do. Of that, I will be on every team call, and if I wasn't able to be on live, it's listening to the recording. It's the daily habits of setting those, even those small goals daily, that I had to do. Because you can't tell your team to do something you're not willing to do yourself, and your actions, as we know, speak louder than your words. And so it was doing those daily actions and putting weekly meetings together for my team and having that consistency that I was doing every single week. For me, it's like I said, goal setting. That's been a big thing of these are the things I'm going to do, and writing those things down. I love writing things on my mirror that I see daily. That just reminds me. Listening to, things that are going to personal, like develop you, and listening to the right things and positive things, not spreading negativity. That's another thing of, kind of keeping that posture high, even if, you maybe you're having a down day or something's going on that maybe isn't easy to deal with. Keeping that high posture within your own team, I think is very important. I know
Yeah.
we've always learned, like, don't spread negativity down into your team. Go to somebody, go to Sean, Michelle, go to whoever your leaders are, to ask those questions. So that was big. And for me, it was I had to believe in myself. So I had to daily, like, build that belief in myself, because it's really hard to portray that belief. If you don't have it in yourself, it's really hard to believe or to build others up in the belief that they need to have in order to become leaders themselves. So I think taking risks, that's another thing, getting outside your comfort zone daily. We have this mantra on our house that my husband always says, do something every day that takes your breath away. And I think a lot of times in this business, in order to be a leader and in order to do that, you do have to do those things that take you out of your comfort zone
Oh,
for sure.
absolutely. Yeah. What do you feel like, because you mentioned at the very beginning, that that felt maybe a little bit intimidating or, being in that position.
Yep.
What have as you have grown and gotten to the point that you're at, what have been some things that have been the hardest for you?
I would say for me personally, I don't love conflict. I do, kind of avoid controversy if I can. That's my personality. It's always been my personality. So for me, it was giving up that, and care is not the right word, but what are other people going to think of me?
Mm.
uh, by sharing this, by doing this as a business, by building this business, like what are people thinking of me? Whether
Yeah,
that's family, friends, and not really caring. And so I always, I remember, Sean, they always said, like, take our belief and be bulletproof, take our bulletproofness, And so for me, what I've seen over the last 14 years, I always say I wish I could download everything I've learned over these last 14 years to a new person, but I know that's not possible. But if I would go back to that self, I would say stop caring what everybody's thinking. You have this gift that you have to share it. And if you're continually worrying about what people are thinking, then you're making it about yourself and not about them.
mm,
So I truly believe for me, it was just asking a ton of questions all the time and listening and being that listener to people. And so I love people. I'm very outgoing in that, but I always did have that fear of speaking in front of people or that fear of, like I said, what are other people thinking? So those are the things that I've definitely had to get over and
yeah,
grow through. And I don't think that's an overnight deal. It's just you have to build your belief in the industry, in as we know, in our company, in the products. So that's a daily thing. You can't just
mm,
have belief in one part, I guess, of the business or the products or our company.
yeah. And probably, like you said, it starts in one place and then grows or dominoes as you grow yourself or learn more.
Yes.
Um, so speaking of that, we've been talking about your team and kind of just dominoing and growing. What has been something, because we hear a lot in this industry of a team culture and positive growth, not just within yourself, but amongst your team. What has been something that you have really tried to do within your team to create that positive culture and not just positive culture, but fun? I think that
Yep.
that's a really big draw besides the health benefits and all of the science and things like that that we have in the products, but um, the community and the fun, that's a
Mhm.
huge part of this business and a big draw.
Yep.
What are some things that you have done to, create that within your team?
Well, I would say, first off is having that consistent weekly time together to really build relationships with each other. So you feel that family, like it's not just a team, it's a family
Mm,
to where we have, we respect one another. We want to empower each other. We're not trying to drag people along. I think, meeting people where they're at and where they want to be within your team and in this business. And so, one, creating that culture is by doing those weekly meetings and genuinely, asking questions and knowing each person. And I
yeah,
think that's big is, when someone new comes in, it's introducing them to everyone, everybody getting on the Zoom, welcoming them in, asking questions, asking, why are they here, their story. And so they genuinely feel heard. Because I think so many times people don't feel like they're genuinely heard. Or
yeah,
what is your not feeling there's an ulterior motive. Like,
yeah,
whatever you wanna be on my team is who you get to be. Like, I don't want to make you anything you're not,
mm,
that you don't wanna be. And
yeah,
so for me, it's building that relationships with them, but creating vision and helping to empower them, like I said, that belief that you want them to have in them. So it's showing them that you have it in them before they even have it. And
yeah,
so I would say genuinely that where we constantly communicate through Telegram, just daily recognition of what are people doing. And it doesn't have to be necessarily enrollments or a rank advancement. It's who got out of their comfort zone or shared their story.
Mhm.
Who, like, what was a win today, maybe even outside of LifeVantage. And so I think it's just that constant communication and, creating that, being humble yourself, inspiring others, being humble, not being you're not telling people what to do, maybe showing them, guiding them
Mhm.
through just kind of how you are as a community of people together and building that family, I guess, and genuinely caring about each one of them.
And I love that, you talked about just, it's not always about, oh, who had the highest enrollments or who, did this or that, but maybe even it's outside of the business side of things. Maybe it's a personal development type thing. Somebody accomplished something. Somebody had a family member that did, and
Yes.
that requires knowing each other and having, like you
Mm,
said, that relationship with one another so that you do know what's going on in each other's lives and you know what kind of maybe struggles or successes that your team members and
yeah.
all of those your community are having to
Yes.
be able to do that. I love that. How do you feel like is the we live in this world of online and we mentioned being able to connect on Zoom and we talk a lot about just the power of connection and in person and things like that and I think there is so much power in that and so much relationship building with genuinely being able to be together with other people and we've had periods of time where we haven't been able to do that so we've had to pivot a little bit and thank heavens we have the amazing technologies that we do.
Yep.
But with that being said, what are some things are there some things that you guys do within your team to build like trying to get together, being in person, and doing things like that to build your community and get to know each other better? And do
Yes.
you
And I
feel
have
like
to,
that's
oh, go
beneficial?
ahead.
Oh, I was
What's
just
that?
do you feel like that's beneficial? Like to
Yes, and I have to say a lot of my team is not or majority of my team is
Mhm.
not in Wyoming. That's kind of, I guess, doing the business side of it. We're spread way more into other places, and it
Yeah.
seems like in the last year or so, it's really grown more into these other states
Uh-huh.
versus Wyoming. So with being, like, directly in Wyoming, I do, doing that consistency of hosting at your house, opportunity presentations and inviting people to those. And so that trying to, being consistent with those is super important. We've been
Yeah.
doing a few more probably in Zoom just because my team is now more so
Mhm.
outside of Wyoming.
Mhm.
But within Wyoming, those consultants that are here, we are extremely close, always try to, be at events, see each other at events. We are like family for those people, here in Casper, but also in other places. When I travel, it's like, how can I try to see some of those in people in person? And obviously building from event to event. So in Vegas, going up. I mean, that was such an incredible event. So we had quite a few new people at that event, which was amazing. But it's now building that to go to Salt Lake and the importance of them seeing how big that was. So it's continually building that relationship. So when you do get to be together finally in person, for those in person events, it's like you've never like your family. So you don't even, it's just you're so excited to hang. And so we do, team dinners every night. I'm big on that, like organizing where are we all going to be at, where can we meet at? And I think those parts of events are as powerful as the actual event itself is what I find that those moments as a team on the at those meals are just as big growth-wise, I believe, as the event itself, is
Oh,
what
I
I
totally agree.
personally feel. I
Yeah.
wish I had more, I guess, within Casper, but, God has gifted me with a great team kinda outside of Wyoming. So, we do try to, even during virtual events, we Zoom before and after together.
Cool.
So, it's like you're watching it together and you're part of it, even if you're not in the same place.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I guess you just need to talk your team into moving to Wyoming then.
I know. Hey, Anywhere they wanna be, I'll go, right?
Well, so pivoting a tiny bit, there's so many great things about, this business, like we've talked about community and team and really just being able to get together and getting to know new people and having that other family, right? Like you
Yep.
I totally agree with you. I think that it really does become a family. Um,
Yes.
with it being a family and you get close, there can also be road bumps, and that can be challenging sometimes of navigating
Sure.
that. Rather it's, different perspectives or, different ideas or which direction, you want to take things and just all sorts of different things, right? Frustrations that come up.
Yeah.
Any advice or things that you have found as you have maybe navigated road bumps or different things like that within your team, that you feel like has worked really well to navigate those challenges?
I would say, kind of like I mentioned a bit before, of not letting negativity go down into your organization and
Mhm.
always, I probably message Sean and Michelle Poe multiple times a day. I mean,
Yeah.
we're dear friends, but I'm if in doubt of how I think I need to respond to something, I still use them daily of how should I respond in a situation? Because I trust that, I mean, they've been through all the things and I love, both of their perspectives. And so I really try to use my mentors, whether it's them, Carrie Williams, just the people that how should I address this? Just
Mhm.
because I was one and I am still one. I don't love conflict or dealing with it. But
Yeah.
what I've learned is that you do have to be direct in certain situations and kind of keep that calmness and not, I guess, let emotions kind of take
Yep.
over in certain situations.
Mhm.
Um, being a leader and I guess showing, you know, I guess my other thing I would say in that too would be not doing everything for everyone. And
Yeah.
I had a tendency, and I still could do that, like where
Yeah.
I think if I can solve the problem myself instead of having others work through the problems that I've had to work through to get to become a leader. So I think sometimes as leaders, we try to take away the road bumps when they actually need to be there.
That's
And
hard.
so
That's a hard
it
one.
is. It is. Ask Sean. He's always like, Des, are you doing too much? Um, so for me, I guess it's maybe not trying to take away every roadblock, but asking those who have done it before me and who are successful and what should I do if I don't know the answer?
Mhm.
Praying about it. I'm a big prayer person, like asking God to kind of help, in certain situations. How do I need to respond with grace, but also be direct and honest when I need to be? So I think teaching people how to find the answers, how to get through the roadblocks and not doing it all for them
Yeah.
is probably one of my biggest challenges I've had to learn. But then also, you know, loving each person for who they are and their personalities and knowing that it's not always going to be simple, but like I said, trying to spread that positivity, but also being honest and genuine to where they can come to you and present if they are upset about something. I don't know if that kind of answers kind of, I guess, a
It
little bit how I navigate, I guess,
It
roadblocks.
absolutely does, and I love the idea and the concept that you kind of shared of supporting and trying to give solutions as much as you can, but also creating, um, and and making space for independence and
Yes.
giving them the opportunity to learn how to do it on their own rather than depending on you, which helps them and helps you in the long run too,
Yes.
because we're always, I think, always fighting for more time, right? Always
Yep.
needing more time. And so, creating that independence for them, but
Mhm.
also making it easier for you also as a leader and
Yes.
giving you the time and the space to then be able to do that for somebody else too. And I know
Yes.
I absolutely love that concept. And I think that is what that does is that helps them to learn that too and do
Yes.
that. They are building their own business. So I
Yes,
love
and we're not creating leaders, if we're doing everything for them and just
exactly.
creating more for you to do versus empowering them on how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Um, all right. we have talked about a ton of, like, different leadership things, team things, personal growth, all of the things. If you had to tell someone that is if you were talking to somebody that was a newer, up and coming leader, had a good-sized team, feeling hesitant and feeling, I think a lot of times, if not almost always, a lot of times you hear, I feel like I have a little bit of imposter syndrome where I have this team, I'm in this leadership position, and I don't feel like I should be, or I don't know how I got here. Um, with all of the years of experience that you have and the great mentorship that you've, talked about that you still are able to tap into, what's some advice from what you have learned that you would give a new up and coming leader as they are trying to step into that role?
I would say it's a tough one a little bit.
I
I
know,
would
sorry,
say I'm thinking
I'm putting
no,
Des on the spot here.
no, I'm just thinking. I would say don't be afraid of failure in certain things, like, don't try to do it perfectly or think that you should. I think it's that whole Carrie Dickey always says it in presentations, and I used to be this person who thought I had to do it perfectly, but
Mhm.
then I know she always says, if you do it perfectly, then the person's gonna think they have to do it perfectly, or if you're striving for perfection, I would say instead strive to grow, not to become perfect at it, and to admit when you're wrong or your mistakes or asking for even advice from your team, like, "Where can I do better on this?" Or how can I support you better?" And I guess maybe being willing to have that constructive criticism, but also
Yeah,
having control of your team and keeping it simple, and I know that's what we keep talking about over and over and within the whole company right now, like, keeping
that's
it simple and not overcomplicating it, and
mhm.
so that's what I would say is not trying to be perfect, but just learning as you're going, and giving yourself grace too, but knowing that it's worth it. Like,
Yeah,
it's worth it, and, every time you reach a goal, it seems like you've gotta grow again to get
yeah.
to the next one. At least that's what I find, like
I agree. I totally agree. It reminds me actually of something that was said, just a couple days ago at the executive reunion that we just had, and, someone made the comment, and then I actually think a couple people made this comment that, they were taking a new prospect to, a meeting and really excited to have them learn, hear, from this person, and left feeling like, "Oh, that speaker was not what I was hoping," or, "The speaker was not really great," and feeling a little bit defeated, and went to their new prospect and were about to say like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. That was not what I was hoping." And their
Mhm.
prospect was absolutely blown away and saying like, "Wow, I got so much from that. That was amazing." And, just that perspective of we never know what is going to touch someone else or what somebody else is going to hear or need to hear that we don't at that time. And so
Mhm.
not to be
Yeah.
afraid, even though it doesn't sound perfect or you feel like you're not the right person to get up and speak or not the right person to be talking, that you just never know how it's going to reach someone else what you have to say, even if
Oh,
it's
for
not
sure.
perfect. And whatever that is, right? Whatever I mean,
Yep.
I don't know what that perfect is anyways, but we
No.
tend to put so much pressure
Oh,
on
for
ourselves.
sure. I compare it to I think it's, if you bring someone to church maybe for the first time, you're worried about what is that sermon. Same thing. Like, what is that person going to say? But I always say it's not up to you, it's up to God. Like, God's going to plant whatever that is in their heart. Same thing like this, that whatever that one thing that that person says might resonate with that person.
Yeah,
And so, it's not our job. It's just be authentic and people see, the real you. So it's
abs
not trying to, like you said, be somebody else or act like somebody else or present like somebody else, but just be you and
yeah.
genuinely people see that.
Well, Des, thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing
Mhm.
so much knowledge and wisdom about, you have an amazing I hear all the time about the positivity and the great team culture that you have, on your team, and so thanks for sharing a little bit of tidbits with us of how you've been able to do that, and just some things to hopefully help someone that is in that seat and looking at, oh my goodness, I am not sure how to go ahead and move forward with leading this team and being in that position. Hopefully, this will help them kind of take that first step forward and be able to do it. So, Des, thank you. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for all you guys do for all of us. So we're just so grateful. So best company ever.
Right? Best company ever. I love it.
Yes.
Thank you so much for listening today, and we will see you all next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Activation Nation podcast. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for future episodes and updates, and share with a friend or prospect that you think could benefit from today's conversation. Check the episode description for any links or disclaimers, and we'll see you next week for another episode.